Thank you for joining me,
Yeah.
and welcome to the first ever Breakside Podcast. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Absolutely.
For all our many listeners out there, I am Noam. I am the writer, creator of the Breakside, and you are?
I'm Hugo. I am the coach at Athens Drive High School, and I am also like a media person. I don't know how to describe
Media mogul.
media. I am the Rupert Murdoch, if you will, of Frisbee Media in the Triangle.
Exactly.
I know everything. I know how to manipulate, if you will, the media space around Frisbee. Mostly I just make videos and put them online. So there we go.
Well, someone's got to do it, and you were doing it before everyone else was, and their mom on Instagram. Now you're way before. You were ahead of the curve.
I wouldn't say that necessarily. I will say it's crazy, like, because I mean, that was like 10 years ago, like 2015. I forget about the duration of time because there's that break with COVID. But to see where things were when I started out, where you had, Ulti-World streaming games, they're kind of one of the only producers, and they're only producing maybe like 6 games over the course of a tournament, 7 games. Whereas now, like, a full slate of tournaments are being recorded. You have individual people who are like shooting film and putting their Venmo on their Instagram saying, hey, come support. I mean, it really is wild to me how much has changed in the interim time between when I started out. And back then, I mean, it was just like, I was just finding teams that wanted film, and there was plenty of them here in the Triangle. So it's crazy now, and it's also kind of crazy for me because now I'm not as involved as I used to be. And so I'm in this strange position of like, wow, so much has changed and I want to be a part of it. But also it's kind of nice to sit back and see others doing this kind of work, and especially at the scale that it's happening now.
For sure. And now you found your way into coaching, and you and I have talked a lot about our experiences coaching, and we thought we would share a little bit of a conversation now. So how did you make the transition from, being primarily focused on media and ultimate to focusing on coaching?
Really it happened during COVID. There was, I think, it was like, for me, this natural transition. I think in 2020, I had already intended to kind of take a step back from all of the film stuff, wrap up some projects with some teams. And then COVID just came in and was like, no, there will be no finality to that at all. It's over for now, and enjoy yourself as you can. And that was not great. I got into coaching, I think it was like the fall of 2021. So Frisbee was getting back. Club season had just wrapped up. Ring had just won their first title. Flyers had just won their first title. And also Pleiades won their first title. So all these 3 teams that I had all been involved with in some way, recording film and interviewing people and just being involved over that kind of 5-year chunk of time since I had graduated. They had all been successful. They had all accomplished the things that they wanted to do. And I think that I had always wanted to coach. I think looking back at my early 20s, I was not confident enough to step into that role. I really didn't feel comfortable as somebody in a team leadership position. I also had this strange and adorable desire that I think every young person after they've graduated from their program has, of like, one day I'm going to go back to Asheville. I went to UNC Asheville to compete. And I was like, one day I'm going to go back and I'm like going to coach that team, and that'll be the team that I start coaching. And so I was like waiting, and I was like, yeah, 2019, like, great time filming. I'm going to wrap up stuff in 2020, and then I'll have the freedom that I need. And then that didn't happen. So I started looking around in the Triangle. I started coaching middle school that winter, and we were still in masks, which was quite a time. So it was like we were all in masks. All of the kids were back in school for the first semester back. And so there was so much angst, like amongst the kids that were coaching. Like, and so I was like, okay, yes, I want to nail down fundamentals and help these teams be successful, but I also need to deal with like just how do we interact as like kind, compassionate humans towards each other. It was an interesting experience, and I coached at Giffens Middle School, which feeds into Jordan High School. Great middle school program. We had 3 teams. Caroline Brickhouse was the kind of team admin, and she had been involved in a lot of stuff. And it was like me. There was a Phoenix player, Audrey Lyman, who was coaching, and then there was this guy, and I cannot. He's gonna. If he's out there, he's probably gonna be screaming at the video. But there's this guy, this older coach from Pittsburgh, who had played on some club teams, and it was just this great combination of like Audrey had her coaching knowledge and background as a player on Phoenix. She had coached previously. I was completely new. The other coach that we had was experienced, and he was also a dad, so he understood a lot about like, okay, how do I promote like some sort of positive social and emotional environment amongst these kids who are all coming back out on the sports field after who knows how long being away from it. And it was a great experience. I remember my goal for that season was, instead of winning, let's focus on giving these kids the full gamut of experiencing Ultimate. It was a beginner team. I was not going out trying, I mean, it's middle school. You're not going out and trying to like win big stuff.
You shouldn't be.
I'm not, we weren't, the players were all like, ooh, shiny. Like, look at those trophies. Like, we want to go out and get I remember when we were at States, like, we had this one kid who was like looking at, like, constantly looking over at the TU tent, looking at the trophies, like, coach, like, we're going to get one of those. And I was like, in my head, I was like, we'll see. But, big wins, big losses, tight wins, tight losses, and just trying to be as nurturing as I could towards these new players, some of whom are now on Jordan. And like, it was wild coaching Athens this year because so much time has passed since 2021. Like, there are kids on that high school team who are juniors who are going to be seniors this year, who either were playing for teams coached by Audrey or who were playing for teams coached by myself. I think Aiden Perez, you came up and like was saying very glowing things about us at Youth Cup. I really appreciated that. There are these really great players now who because of that positive experience got hooked on the sport, and they're like, oh wow, I'm going to go play at Jordan, and I'm going to try and do things at that program. So it was a fun and an inspiring experience, I would say. And I feel like, you came back last year you were done with college. Seems like you had a great in with like the youth programs that we had here as well. Because like you and I ended up coincidentally at like our alma mater at Chapel High coaching like youth rec league. What was that experience like, coming back and getting plugged in here?
Yeah, I think it was a little emotional in a lot of ways. Like, growing up here, coming through the youth system, like playing with and against like so many amazing players who are like now going on to do amazing things. I mean, I was talking with some of my friends from Chapel Hill High School about like our girls team from the time that we were there.
That was Ember,
And we were,
right?
Ember, Chapel Hill Ember. We were looking back at the roster, and we were like, oh, there are 3 kids on that team who just won U24 Worlds. There are 2 or 3 key cogs in the Pleiades dynasty on that team.
That was Dawn?
Dawn was in East, so Dawn was in and
East.
she was a year older. So like my senior year,
Was Grace?
there was Grace Connery,
Grace Connery.
Sarah Combs. Sarah also just won U24 Worlds.
Right.
Cleo Phillips just won U24 Worlds
Crazy.
and won a club national championship several years ago. Emma Williamson also just won U24. Harper Bear, who is like tearing it up at Stanford. I think she was also in 8th grade at that time too. Both of the O'Neills, who have like gone on to do very, very impressive things in college ultimate as well. So like, Um, yeah, I think, and that's not even like, talking about the boys division and the kids that I played with, who are also like incredible, incredible players. And I think coming up in a space that was so flush with like incredible ultimate players, and then like very notably receiving not good experiences from coaching in like all different avenues, as I've documented like
Yes.
several times over to several places. I think that definitely like gave me a very interesting perspective as far as like my relationship to the triangle and my relationship to youth ultimate in the triangle. Um, and I think it's a little ironic you said, you were still getting used to like the idea of like taking on team leadership roles and that kind of stuff because for me, in large part, occasionally due to that kind of coaching and also just kind of how long I've been playing Ultimate for, which is since middle school, um, I have often felt like I have ended up in certain team leadership roles that like prepared me for coaching and prepared me for those experiences. We didn't have any seniors on Chuff my junior year, so Daniel Farrett and I were captains of Chuff for 2 years, both of us, instead of one of us being a junior captain and so. I had 2 years of that in high school, managing a very difficult situation with our coach. Um, I had 2.5 years of like captain experience in college at Brandeis in a D3 program where, we were fortunate to have amazing and present coaches, but they were busy during the club season a lot of times too. So we were very often taking things on in the fall and like coaching in the fall. Um, and when I was in Michigan, very briefly, I did a little bit of youth rec coaching there as well. And actually, that was one of the things I really enjoyed about my time in Michigan. And so when I came back and I was taking a break from playing, I still wanted to write for, the Breakside, and I still wanted to like stay involved in the sport, even if I wasn't playing. So I thought youth rec was a good place to start, for sure. And Triangle Ultimate always needs coaches, and I reached out and um, like Matthew Johannes and Jack McCleary are both people who I'd seen around in Triangle, played with Jack on some YCC teams, and so they were both sort of instrumental in sort of ushering me into the Triangle Ultimate coaching pipeline for sure.
It's interesting that you bring up like how past experiences shape what we do now as coaches because I remember when I came back to Chapel High last year to coach Youth Rec League, and like if you are a player who's been on Chuff, and Chuff is like a team that has had so many great players over the course of so many seasons. So every iteration of that team, you're going to have somebody who has gone on and competed for like Carolina or who's competed on some sort of team that is very, very good. To kind of stand in the shoes of those people and know that that's the program you're representing, and then come back to the place where you physically were practicing as a younger person and probably like, at least in my situation, like I started playing Ultimate in 2010 in the fall of 2010, and like that practice field where we were hosting like all the youth rec league stuff was where I began playing frisbee for the very first time. And so for me, I was like, man, to be out there, it was all kind of like a full circle thing for me of like being able to look around and say, wow, I really have come a very long way here, and and yet I'm at the beginning of this journey of where's this going to take me. And I thought it was one of the things that I thought was special. I think there was like it was you, me, Milo, Lucy, and I think we were all Chuff alumni in some way from that program. I'm not sure if Milo was, but
Lucy
was.
played on Ember.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like you have all of like we have these multiple different generations of players who played in Chapel Hill who are all back at like the old stomping ground, and I thought that that was a great place to start, especially because like last year I did like the AmeriCorps Vista coaching position for a short period of time, and for me I was like, okay, I want to for like this duration of time when I'm in a coaching position. take it seriously, work on the practice plans, figure out, you know, what do you run as a coach? Because like I really, one of the things that I remember from Githens was that was a lot of that I was just improvising from things that other coaches had done. Whereas like TU, they had like a whole curriculum and stuff. So it's like, it's just so interesting to go back to the place where you started out and then to see yourself in that role. I think it's a very powerful thing. I don't know if there's a way to describe that feeling, but it feels like you are stepping into something that's really is bigger than you.
I think that's a great way to put it, honestly. And I'm not sure that like I don't know if I would have felt as hooked or like the need to stick with it beyond just doing rec league a couple times a year if I didn't have experiences like that. And like I ended up coaching with Lucy and Milo again, like at the summer camps, like
Right.
throughout that summer as well. And so like I think, getting to step back into a space where like so many core memories of the sport and like core foundations and like friendships who that are like still very near and dear to my heart, like were sort of fully forged and cemented like years later, it is really incredible. And I mean, I kind of had like a similar moment with my like Lucky Punks kids on Sunday, like 2 days ago. Like, I made them run conditioning at this like 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. like hot practice at Cedar Fork in Morrisville.
That is
And yeah. And I was like, I don't even know if I was like on Punk's one. The memory I had might have been like when I was playing on Sky and we were running conditioning there or whatever too. But I was literally joking with them. I was like, oh, in 6, 7 years, you guys can come back and you could be a third generation of Lucky Punks coaches who's, coaching this team and making their team run conditioning.
yeah. Yeah.
And I think like a part of it was me just like messing with them because it's fun. But I think there is like something like really impactful about like getting to experience both sides of that relationship on a team that you coached. But also just like any team, like it works for any team. It works for anything. Like I could have a similar experience at any high school here in the Triangle because, that's just like how the kids here are. Like they care about the same kinds of things. Like they're making the same jokes that I was making with my friends, and I have to try not to laugh at certain times as a coach because I can't. But it's funny because I was doing the same things that they were doing, and it doesn't matter if it's the girls' team or the boys' team or whatever. Like it's a deeply communal, and I think one of the things that has like really solidified for me since taking my time off, since leaving Davenport, since coming home, has been how much I really value the communal aspect of the sport and how much it really means to me. And I think I still have all of these big, maybe a little bit delusional dreams about what I could still achieve as a player and like what I want to achieve and what I am going to work really hard to achieve. But I think if you had asked me in high school, um, you know, what if you don't do that, but still spend all this time in the sport? I a little bit hate to say it, but I think part of me would have said, no, like that's a failure. Like you're
Right.
there to win. Like
Right.
you're there to be the best. If you're not the best, like what are you doing? Um, and I think like coming back with a fresh perspective, having experienced a lot of truly wonderful positives and a lot of, more competitive success than the average player could ever ask for, right? Like we went to D3 nationals twice, which was really special and really what I wanted to do in college. Um, but coming back, like having had so much of my perspective like shaped by that mindset and kind of being like, oh wow, like this really hasn't worked for me. Like it's actually super meaningful to do all of these other things in the sport. And it's also super meaningful to try as hard as I can to impart a small piece of that, like, hey, the sport means so much more than just winning to these kids, even though I was them. I know what they want. I know how badly they want to win. and I know that they're probably not going to hear me, or at least hear most of what I'm saying when it comes to that.